You are lower than consensus on one Jabari Smith Jr. He is widely tipped to be the number one pick, and if he isn't the number one pick, probably a number two pick. When you say you're lower on him than consensus, are you out on him at one? Are you out on him as a top four player? Are you out on him as a top seven player? Like, where are you with Jabari Smith?
Yeah. I think my like lower than consensus is just being out on him as a number one pick. I want to get across like I always do. I think he's a quite good prospect. He has a lot of really valuable strengths. The shot making for his size is obviously wonderful. I think his defense is under discussed. Like that guy is a ridiculous mover. Can really flip his hips, move his feet, change directions on the ball, and I think has a frame where he can probably add some weight as well. So I think he could be a really impressive on-ball defender. Already so good at like a young age in like a great conference, which as we talked about with Wesley, is not easy to do. But I think my hangups with Jabari mostly come on the offensive end, where he is like a really great standstill shot maker. Like you give him the ball at 17 feet, pulling up in transition, he's going to be great. But I think Jabari is definitely lacking in a lot of other important areas. When you look at offensive stars, like he doesn't really pass the ball. He's not a great finisher in the half court. He's not someone who can really dribble or create his own advantages, like you talked about with Blake Wesley. Obviously, very different players, but most of Jabari's success is off of tough shot making, which is a viable way to do it. There are players in the NBA who live and die off of tough shots and do it really well. And I think assuming Jabari hits and is a good player, that's probably what he's going to do, and that's totally okay. But it's really difficult to be that guy and be like a real star, like a real high end star. Um, and I think when you're looking at like real high end stars, Jabari is a little bit lacking in like the like he's not a great enough scorer to be like a guy who carries like a great offense by himself. And when you have him off the ball, it's like how is he contributing? Is he because he's not a guy who can really pass the ball well. He's not a guy who's a really good finisher at the rim on cuts and drives and stuff. Obviously, he's going to be a great spot up shooter, but I think if you're using Jabari off the ball a lot, you're kind of not getting the most out of his really unique talents. So I definitely don't think he's bad, and I think like as like a top 3 or 4 pick, he's totally fine. But like like for me, the number one stuff is just is not super great, just because I think there are better options. But I don't think he's bad at all. I think he's a good prospect overall.
Do you think that part of the reason that this talk from Orlando, and let's assume that it's true, and Orlando's locked him in as number one, let's assume that's true, is that them maybe overlooking player talent for fit and thinking, hey, we just need someone who can be a scorer. We've got these bit part players, we've got these defensive options, but we need someone who can take on volume. And do you think that Jabari, when compared to wings, say like Paul George, say LeBron, say Kawhi, these 6'7" to 6'9" wing forward players who are able to take on the 30+ usage role, is he going to be able to handle that sort of a usage role? Or is he going to be more of a 24, 25 usage player who shoots well, but as you said, has some of those other issues offensively?
I would definitely go with the latter. I think he's a guy, if you just like I kind of said, if you give him like the really high usage, like he doesn't have he doesn't have the decision making quality to always make the right decisions, and he doesn't have the advantage creation to generate easy shots. And like I think like you have to be such an amazing tough shot maker to really make it work. And we've seen a lot of players in the past like this is obviously like I think this is gonna be a better player. Like we've seen players like Andrew Wiggins really struggle in like high volume on ball roles as like tough shot makers, and then they slide down into like a more complementary role with better players, and they're thriving and they can do really really well. So I think that's not a comparison in their play styles, but I think like Jabari is going to be best when he can act as like a floor racing secondary guy, someone who can play next to someone who can really be a primary decision maker, like someone like Luca or Trey Young or Lamelo or I guess LeBron, or someone who can really carry the load of deciding what the offense is going to do. And then maybe when that guy goes to the bench or when he's tired, I think Jabari can be definitely like a secondary or third guy who really carries the scoring load. So like in kind of like answering the first question, like I don't think like it, the number one stuff is interesting. I don't really know how much of it is like smoke or how much of it is real, because there's so much stuff around this time of the draft that it's hard to really know. But I feel like if the Magic are looking for someone who can be like that primary scorer, I think Paolo is probably a better option for that. I think Jabari is just like a stronger like complementary player, at least early in his career and for a while. But I think Paolo is probably more likely to be that guy. Um, I don't know, like the Magic are in kind of an interesting place. They have like a lot of really good pieces, but it feels like they're missing something. So I definitely don't think like Jabari is perfect for them. I don't think he'd be bad for them either as well. I mean, that would make quite the defense.
It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes and how, like, because again, this is not the strongest top end class, especially compared to where we were last season. And having the number one pick here, gives you a lot of the times it's an easy selection. It was here. I don't think it's quite as easy, especially with the way that the order fell in this draft in terms of players that certain teams need and all of those sort of things. But we are